up, everybody? Welcome to the Trust Your Board podcast. My name's Stephen Wright. I am joined by Mr. William Monroe. Will, how you doing, man?
Steve, it's August. We are in mock draft official season, so now we don't look as crazy as we did before when we were doing mock drafts. Now everyone's doing mock drafts.
Yeah, we've been pumping out mock drafts for a while, so yeah, everyone can join us.
Yeah.
Oh boy, yeah, it's going to be a fun month, that's for sure.
That it is. We'll hope that we don't get any bad news about the league, but every day is one step closer to the season. Yeah, and take note, it's a later start to the season than usual because I think this is maybe the latest it can start because September 1st is a Tuesday, so Labor Day is not till the 7th, which would mean I think kickoff isn't until the 10th.
Yeah, so something like that. It's an extra week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So an extra week here of preseason, different type of preseason now, but
it's preseason in that it's before the season, not a normal preseason. Yeah, I hear you. So, got another full mock draft on the docket for everyone today. Will, you want to go over what we're doing here?
Yeah, so 12-team PPR mock draft. I'm going to be drafting out of the 5th spot. Steve, you'll be drafting out of the 11th spot. But this time we're going to put a little twist on it where we each are going to have some kind of preconceived draft strategies in mind here. I'm going to be drafting with a 0 RB approach, while Steve is going to be focusing on a heavy RB approach. We both mentioned that you always want to stay water, so not ever go into a draft with a specific approach in mind. But should you find yourself, a round or two in and the board's falling to you that way and you want to adopt that strategy, one way or the other, 0 or heavy, there's, a way to kind of give yourself a little bit of a blueprint.
Yeah, and it's really born out of yesterday's episode, right? Mm-hmm. These are the exact draft spots that we drafted in our mini mock yesterday. You wanted to go 0 RB, but Saquon ended up falling because CEH went at the 102. So I went ahead and
here.
Yeah, I know, right? I went ahead and took up your 0 RB mantle. So we kept the same spots. We wanted to give that a try and have it go for the full mock. So we just flip the roles, let you do your 0 RB like you wanted. I'll go ahead and do heavy just to set the stage, and we'll see how it goes.
Perfect. I think that covers that. Anything else? Any other news or notes?
Just get the logistics out of the way. If you listen on the podcast, give us a 5-star rating. We really appreciate it. If you're on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe. Again, mock draft season. If you're new to the pod, every Friday we do a full 1-hour mock draft, and then Monday through Thursday we do mini mocks, which are little 15-minute episodes. We go over the first 5 rounds, try different strategies out, different formats. So it's a fun time if you're new to the pod. So check us out. Keep listening. Rate us. We'd really appreciate it. It helps us out a lot. Will, are you ready to get started, man?
One quick note. I just popped on Twitter real quick, and someone tweeted out a picture of what looks like a linebacker, but the caption is, "It's not a linebacker. It's Jonathan Taylor. He looks huge."
Yeah, so the dude is jacked.
I just added the Trust Your Board, so if anybody's interested in taking a look, man, he looks loaded. I know you and I both are hype on him for our joint dynasty league. We're going to be relying on him big time with our kind of 0 RB approach that we took to the dynasty season there almost.
Yeah, interesting. We'll see. You will definitely not be having any shares of him in this draft.
No, not at all.
Not at all. Well, let's go ahead and let's get the ball rolling here.
Let's do it.
So, wow, we have Zeke going off with the 101, Clyde Edwards-Helaire again with the 102, Christian McCaffrey to the 103, Alvin Kamara to the 104. So interesting that it's similar to yesterday in that Barkley gets to the 5 spot.
Yeah, I wonder. It doesn't really make sense. I get maybe going Clyde there, but Kamara over Barkley, I don't know that makes a ton of sense for me.
I got a feeling, and we have no way of knowing this, but I got a feeling there's some sort of momentum factor in with what Sleeper's doing, because we've mentioned a couple times that Zeke's ADP has been low, right? 7th, 8th pick. Well, now Zeke is the second running back off the board. and they
First
got
in this one.
Barkley. Yeah, well, on their ADP list. So they got McCaffrey as like the 1-0, it's like 1-1 or something, and then Zeke's at 3, and Saquon's at 3.2. So Zeke jumped up, Saquon fell a little bit, and then obviously CEH is going to the stratosphere. So I wonder if there's momentum that's carrying CEH all the way up to 2, Zeke up, and then Barkley down a little bit. It's the only way I can make sense of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we mentioned that, some of their ADPs were a little off. So that would make sense if they're maybe trying to course correct it by giving this guys a little bit of a boost. Yeah, we'll see. I'm not sold. Hopefully that's not the case. You don't want them kind of manipulating it, but you hope that it just writes itself. But we'll see. Normally, as we said, you say water. This is a spot where, as good as Michael Thomas is, where I found myself yesterday, can't pass on a Saquon Barkley in a real draft. So, as we mentioned, I'm going to be going 0 RB. So, Steve, you can cross your fingers that he falls all the way to 11 to you.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
And in the 0 RB, you're really looking to load on wide receivers, possibly reach a little earlier for a tight end or a quarterback to really get that positional advantage. I think tight end's kind of the important one here, so we'll see how that works out. But here it's pretty easy. Michael Thomas is my wide receiver 1. I think like he is with most. You have to, really I guess consideration would be Tyreek Hill and Devonta Adams. I love Julio. I'm a fan of Hopkins and Godwin. I don't think they're in consideration. You could make the argument for Tyreek, if you really just love that offense, but I just think Michael Thomas is too consistent. He's going to get too much of the target share. So really not too much debate here. Michael Thomas starts off my draft 0 RB strategy. Saquon goes number 6. Could be the lowest we see him drafted all year. Derrick Henry, number 7. Joe Mixon, number 8. Devontae Adams, number 9. And Miles Sanders up in the first round here at number 10, Steve.
Yeah, so running backs on the board, we have Dalvin Cook, we have Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake, Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones. So plenty to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
I might surprise some people, but I'm not going with Dalvin Cook. I don't play the game of the holdout. Like, yeah, yeah. I mean, if he gets to me at 2-2, like he gets there, then I'll go ahead and draft him
too. With the running backs available.
Exactly. I don't like playing the game. And I guess it really doesn't matter. It's 2 picks. I can grab him now and just grab another running back. But I really want Kenyon Drake. If Kenyon Drake was gone, I'd probably grab Cook and then, grab whoever falls to me. But I really like Drake. He's a little bit above everyone here. Not Cook, but again, the holdout stuff has an impact there. So I'm going to lock in Drake. Yeah, there goes Dalvin Cook. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. So your next pick, Steve. Yeah. Can you remember how often do you see wide receivers going, right, in the first round? Here we had 2 go. Don't think I've seen a quarterback outside of Superflex. Haven't seen a tight end there, right? But it seems like it has been a very, very running back heavy first round since the last, few weeks, months even for us. I don't know that I'd seen more than maybe Tyreek sneak in the first round here.
Yeah, I think at a maximum it's usually 3.
Yeah.
And Tyreek will get in there around where I drafted the 11 or the 12 or something. But yeah, long gone are the days of like Gronk and Jimmy Graham getting into the first.
Yeah.
Mahomes, not here in your home leagues. Someone will be bound to jump up for him, I'm sure. But yeah, we haven't seen it.
Yeah, not out of the question, but definitely interesting food for thought.
Yeah, for sure. So again, Dalvin Cook went off the board right after me. That rounds out the first. To start the second, Nick Chubb went off the board. So pretty easy decision for me. We have Josh Jacobs, Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, Todd Gurley, James Conner on the board. Love Josh Jacobs. I worry about Eckler. I'm definitely not going to pick an Eckler or Aaron Jones when I got Jacobs on the board. I love him this year. Love the combo with him and Drake. So I'm just going to lock him in. Easy decision. We had Austin Eckler, Julio Jones, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, and Travis Kelce go off the full board before you.
Wow. So a little surprised, to see Tyreek here still on the board. So that's, we'll give it a look, but it's hard to not pass him up. And B, that Hopkins and Kelce I thought would be the decision I'd have to make here. So it's going to be pretty easy. This is where you'd consider going one of the tight ends. If Tyreek was gone, both tight ends are available. I don't know that I can pull the trigger on a quarterback, so I feel like that 5th, 6th round would be a nice time to get one of those, my kind of top 6 tier quarterbacks, the 3 to 6 that are usually available there. So yeah, I mean, still got Tyreek Hill, still got Chris Godwin, so definitely RB heavy so far for the overall.
And that's we've been railing on Sleeper a lot for the ADPs, but it's nice that they allow their system to draft people early and let people fall like they do in reality, right? Because Tyreek Hill's ADP is 14. Like, he should have went around me, but it let him fall because that stuff happens sometimes.
Yeah, it does. So it is nice to see that, because you do need to be ready for things like that. So that being the case, we'll lock in Tyreek Hill here. Really be nice, if George Kittle fell. Otherwise, probably be looking at going with another wide receiver. But you do want to strike at the tight end position early. Had Hill not been here, I'd be hard pressed not to grab Kittle over Godwin. That'd be tough. Wanted to get that positional advantage, but that not being the case, we'll grab Tyreek here, lock that in. Godwin goes, Lamar, Todd Gurley, Kenny Galladay, Mahomes, James Conner, and Leonard Fournette. Wow, this board is really falling to me here for the 0 RB approach. Both quarterbacks go off the board, but I do luck out Kittle still sitting there. I'm not looking at the quarterback position. You still, got a lot of running backs available that I am not looking at here because of the makeup that I'm looking for. You have Thielen, OBJ, Juju Smith-Schuster, a lot of good receivers, guys that'd be great to have as your third, but just getting that positional advantage, Kittle with Thomas and Tyreek Hill, I think is too hard to pass up. So this is pretty much, and this is all random. We didn't, set these picks, but this is pretty much exactly how you'd want the board to fall for a 0 RB strategy, getting 2 elite wide receivers as well as a tight end. So we'll lock in Kittle here. After him goes Allen Robinson, Adam Thielen, Chris Carson, Lev Bell, and David Johnson.
Yeah, so we have some interesting decisions to make. Again, we're going with the running back heavy strategy, so I'm grabbing a running back here. And it's really between the top 2 on the board. We got Melvin Gordon and we got Jonathan Taylor. Since we have Kenyon Drake and Josh Jacobs already, I don't feel like I need the safety that Melvin Gordon's going to present, and I could take an upside shot on Jonathan Taylor. Might take him a little while to get going, but I can afford to wait that out. So I'm going to go ahead and lock him in here. I got a feeling I'm going to get real uncomfortable here with the next pick, though. We have Juju and then DJ Moore going off the board. So Melvin Gordon's still here. That's an awesome grouping. The problem now where I start to running in the strategy is that it's a long time. I'm not on the term, but I'm practically there. So it's going to be a long wait when I get back. And I know it's going to end up being that Stefan Diggs, AJ Green, Hollywood Brown, Devontae Parker tier. And I don't like that tier, at least not for my first wide receiver. But meanwhile, like OBJ, Amari Cooper, Cooper Kupp, Calvin Ridley, like there's a lot of good options. But for the sake of doing the running back approach here, I will go ahead and grab another running back. We'll see if we can make the wide receiver position to work. And at the end of the day, the wide receiver position doesn't need to be that strong because my starting 2 running backs and my flex positions are going to be Kenyon Drake, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, and Melvin Gordon. So I'm pretty stacked already. I just need to find 2 decent wide receivers to plug in there, and I think I could pull that off. So we're going to go ahead and lock in Melvin Gordon. He's someone I don't think I've really drafted that often this year, but I do like him. We know he's very talented. He's in a great running offense. Things really could work out well for him this year if they, you got to imagine they're not going to just unleash Drew Lock and let him chuck the ball all over. He's got to grow. We didn't see enough from him last year to warrant that kind of action. So they're going to let him grow. They're going to rely on Melvin a lot, I think. So I like that pick. We're going to lock him in. Had OBJ, Cooper Kupp, Amari Cooper, David Montgomery, and Calvin Ridley go off the board.
All right. So we still just have the top 2 tight ends, top 2 quarterbacks off the board. And, question may be, since you're not going running back, right? You're looking wide receiver. Would you go with another tight end? I think it's hard to justify going with an Ertz or a Mark Andrews here, even in the next round. While I think they're both good, it's hard to trade them. I feel like a lot of people will say, "Oh, if I can get two, I'll have that positional advantage and be have trade bait." But I know someone in our league a couple years ago took, I believe it was Gronk and Kelsey before Gronk retired. And I don't know if he was able to pull a trade off eventually or not, but it's not
No,
easy.
because Gronk sucked.
Yeah, exactly. You're not
at the end of the day.
You're not going to get the value back that you want because people are able to plug and play those positions. So you're not going to get the value back. So it's going to be a wide receiver here. Possibly look to the quarterback position next. Depending on what type of wide receivers are on the board there, to maybe lock in one of those elite quarterbacks as well and really have everything but running back covered. So we're going to look at the wide receiver position again here. And it really comes down to, do you want a safer option like a Robert Woods, or do you want to go with an outside shot like an A.J. Brown or DK Metcalf? I think with Michael Thomas and Kittle, giving me a really good baseline. Even Tyreek, people talk about him as a boomer bust, but even he has a pretty solid baseline for being boomer bust as well. I can afford to take a little more of an upside shot. There's going to, as much as I know and I both like Robert Woods, there's going to be other guys available in kind of his, his makeup of wide receiver a little later. So I'm going to go with an upside shot here, and it's going to, for me, either be A.J. Brown or DK Metcalf. With the makeup that I have here already, it's tough. And it was interesting because I was, faded them both last year after the rookie draft, and then they both came out and produced. I think we're going to lean, and we're going to go A.J. Brown on this one. And it could go either way. I like DK's, quarterback situation better, but he probably has a little more competition for targets with Lockett there. So we'll go with A.J. Brown, and next round really be looking at solidifying that last wide receiver or second position, flex position in, or looking at the quarterback position, depending on if any of them start going here. So we'll lock in A.J. Brown, and after him goes Mark Andrews, DJ Chark, DK Metcalf, Zach Ertz, Robert Woods, Mark Ingram, Devin Singletary, and Keenan Allen off the board. So with that gone, we now have 4 tight ends off the board. Still just those 2 quarterbacks. So I think I'm going to play the waiting game at least one more round here and look to solidify my wide receiver core. Given that I have Michael Thomas, Tyreek Hill, and A.J. Brown, Kittle at tight end. Maybe looking to strike a little more balance. Terry McLaurin is hard to pass up here. Tyler Lockett gives me maybe a little more of a safer option to pair with A.J. Brown. I like the quarterback situation better. Terry's going to have volume though, and I think if conventional wisdom maybe says Tyler Lockett makes more sense for this team, but when you're going 0 RB, you need to make sure you're going to hit on all these positional players and receiver, because you are sacrificing really 2 spots in both running back spots to start here. So we're going to actually go Terry McLaurin, really just look to really lock in the wide receiver core here with Kittle in the middle there. So Terry McLaurin here, and then next round we'll see what kind of quarterbacks are available. Maybe strike the first running back there with 0 RB, but if I can get one of those top quarterbacks, get that advantage there, and then start looking for those receiving backs or volume backs that people aren't too fond of, or even some of those Alexander Madison type players are going to be the running backs that we're really looking at here that hopefully can pan out with an injury or a couple weeks of COVID, or we know. So with this pick, we'll go Terry McLaurin, and after Terry goes Tyler Lockett, Raheem Mostert, Cam Akers, DeAndre Swift, and Dak Prescott.
Okay, so we'll take a look at the board here. We'll run down everyone. We got all of our quarterbacks outside of Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Dak. At the running back position, we got Kareem Hunt, Ronald Jones, Darius Geis, James White, J.K. Dobbins. At wide receiver, Tell me if these names don't sound familiar. Well, we got T.Y. Hilton, Cortland Sutton, Stephen Diggs, A.J. Green, Hollywood Brown, Devontae Parker. What do you know?
Just like you expected.
Yeah, right? This is why you mock. You figure these things out.
Hey, you could go Darren Wall or get your tight end position locked up.
I could, yeah. We got Waller, we got Gronk, we got Evan Ingram, Hayden Hurst, but I will be waiting at the tight end position. We will grab a wide receiver. We'll grab two. Of these guys, it's really between Sutton and Diggs. Sutton is the guy that I like a little bit more. I don't like the boom bust nature of Stephen Diggs that much. So I kind of got lucky in that he snuck through. So I got someone that I'm somewhat confident in. I'd be more comfortable if they didn't bring in Jerry Jeudy, but what can you do? So we're going to go ahead and lock in Cortland Sutton as my first wide receiver. We have Kyler and then T.Y. Hilton go off the board. So I will go ahead and add Stephen Diggs here. Give myself a little bit of boom. You know, that's a healthy wide receiver core there. And again, I only need two. So I'm pretty comfortable with that. It feels a lot better than going in with AJ Green and Devontae Parker or something like that, or, you know, Hollywood and Devontae Parker, at least for me. I know there's some people that really like Parker and, you know, I believe in Hollywood, but he's still risky. And, you know, so it makes me feel a lot better about the team moving forward. So go ahead and lock him in. There's really no one else to discuss. AJ Green is kind of interesting because we know his upside, but I don't want to take the risk. So we'll lock him in here. Throw things back to you, Will. There goes Darren Waller, Kareem Hunt, Russell Wilson, Devontae Parker, James White.
All right. So with all of them off the board, still have one guy that I consider kind of that upper echelon quarterback in Deshaun Watson. So he is definitely in play here. Now, do have to play the board, and there are two of the 4 teams behind me already having a quarterback. So that eliminates two of them really as options to take a player. So if there's another wide receiver or even maybe a first run back, I'm not sure if this is too early to just strike the first running back for a 0 or B, but we'll see. So let's take a look here at the wide receiver position. We have AJ Green, Hollywood Brown, Edelman, Cooks. Hollywood's interesting, you know, really put on this wide receiver heavy team. It is the first bench player available, but, you know, even when you're going 0 RB, I feel like you're still also looking potentially, you know, for trade options as well. So loading up at a position of strength is never a bad thing. Now, running back, you've still got a guy in Ronald Jones. Interesting. You know, he should be the lead back, so not a bad first back to take. Darius Geis, J.K. Dobbins. You know, he's still got some other rookies a little further down. But what we're going to do here, you know, just fully leaning into the 0 RB strategy is I'm going to go with Deshaun Watson, lock in that from what I believe kind of QB1. I think I'll have a QB1, tight end 1, and, you know, really strong receiver core. And then, you know, from there, you know, you do grab maybe 1 or 2 more receivers, but really just pound out that running back position almost the rest of the draft here. So we're going to go to Deshaun Watson. After him, AJ Green, Rob Gronkowski, Ronald Jones, J.K. Dobbins, Keith Hollywood Brown at the turn there, Darius Geis, Julian Edelman, and Keyshawn Vaughn. So a couple of running backs in Dobbins and Jones that I did like, and, you know, maybe in a real draft you strike that guy. You want to get that position in, but for the sake of the mock here, wanted to really lean into that model here. So we're looking at the running back position. It's not pretty, but you're banking on the rest of your team really looking good. Let's look at the wide receiver position real quick. You got Cooks, Landry, Gallup, Boyd, Fuller, Deontay Johnson, Marvin Jones. There's really no one that's kind of far and away. Yeah, you know, Deebo Samuel, you know, gives some pulse, but with already having killed, doesn't really make sense. That would make you want to forego the running back position in another round. So we're looking at, a guy in Jordan Howard. Sony Michel is probably, you know, going to be one of the more common guys on a 0 RB team, just because you want to get the touches and the carries. And then you got the likes, you know, of the receiving backs like Matt Breida. You got Tariq Cohen down there as well, I believe. James White he went to be there. Marlon Mack's interesting too, because as much as we're just hyping up Jonathan Taylor in the beginning here, you know, I think they are going to run the ball with two running backs. And who knows with these rookies, as we said with Kobe, we don't know how ready they're going to be to start the season. So Marlon Mack probably makes the most sense here. I think he's the guy that could start the season off right away, and I can get some points from, and then bank on some other running backs that are going to be able to fill in. So I'll go Marlon Mack here as my first running back. Nothing sexy about that, but with the rest of the team make up there, really covers that hole. So Marlon Mack, first running back there. Jordan Howard goes. Brandon Cooks, Evan Ingram, Will Fuller, Sony Michel.
Yeah, so we're in an interesting spot here. We'll go ahead and run everything down. At quarterback, we got Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and Josh Allen. At the running back position, Tevin Coleman, Tariq Cohen, Matt Breida, Alexander Mattison, and Philip Lindsay. At wide receiver, Jarvis Landry, Michael Gallup, Tyler Boyd, Deontay Johnson, and Debo. And at tight end, Hayden Hurst, Tyler Higbee, Hunter Henry, Jared Cook. It's an interesting spot. I kind of want to grab Hayden Hurst. He was somebody I really liked in the offseason given the situation, and I really didn't think his ADP was going to get this high. But here it is, and I'll never own him because it's this high, and I tend not to draft tight ends this early. So I would like to go there, but Tyler Boyd is screaming off at me. It's just a great ad right here to give me another safe wide receiver. So it's kind of hard to pass that up. I am also looking at the running back position. When we started this draft, I kind of thought I could grab my 4 running backs, grab my wide receivers, and then grab a guy like Alexander Mattison a little bit later as another potential boom that could give me, if Dalvin Cook does hold out like 8 weeks or so of really productive value. But with Matt Breida on the board, I'm kind of at a bit of a pause because Breida has standalone value, where I'm not sure Madison's going to have that. So I'll probably just play the game where I'm going to draft Tyler Boyd and then see what running back gets back to me. I wouldn't think that both Breida and Mattison are going to go, but the team in front of me also hasn't drafted a running back since the second round, so maybe they will. But I'm going to grab Boyd. He is a nice counter to Stefon Diggs, where he's going to be nice and safe. He's going to get peppered with targets. As long as Burrow isn't absolutely terrible, he should be a fine guy to add. And again, I'm not relying on him. So if things don't work out with Diggs and Buffalo, and him and Josh Allen don't form a connection because it's a weird offseason and they're new with each other, then Boyd's a perfectly good fill-in. Or same thing with Cortland Sutton. If his volume goes down because Jerry Jeudy's there and Albert O's there now and Drew Lock doesn't perform the way we expect, I can plug in Boyd. I'm comfortable with that. So we'll go ahead and plug him in there. We have Michael Gallup and Jarvis Landry go off the board. So now I can go ahead and grab another running back, and I will go ahead and grab Matt Breida. Giving me 5 running backs here, so it's just a depth play. But I love Breida this year. He's got a lot of pass-catching chops. If Howard does go down, then he could end up being a 3-down back. So you don't find people like that this late, with that kind of potential. I mean, Alexander Mattison's got that potential. Philip Lindsay, to a degree, has that potential. But after that, it's kind of iffy. I guess Carry On, but Carry On's usually the guy getting hurt. So we're going to go ahead and lock him in here, and I probably won't look at the running back position for a long time at this point. Yeah, because I won't need to. So yeah, we'll go ahead and lock in Matt Breida there. We have Deontay Johnson. There goes Hayden Hurst, Debo, Tevin Coleman, and Drew Brees. You're on the clock.
Right. So I'm going to have a common theme here for a while where we look to see what wide receivers are there, and then if there's no one that is thrilling, we're just going to draft running backs for a while here. So on the board, the only 2 guys that I'm looking at here, Alexander Mattison as kind of an upside guy, and then Tariq Cohen as a nice receiving back that's going to get work. I think with Marlon Mack kind of being an early downs guy, or maybe even early season guy, I want to go with an upside shot. There's going to be other guys, maybe not on Cohen's level, but that are going to be able to be plugged in as wide receiver, receiving backs. So we're going to go with the upside shot of Mattison, who I think should give me enough work at the running back 2 position to start here. Just to kind of fill out the rest of the team that I already have to cover that hole. So we'll go Madison. After him, Matt Ryan, Emmanuel Sanders, Tyler Higbee, Brady, Tariq Cohen, CeeDee Lamb, Marvin Jones, and Aaron Rodgers. So we'll take a peek back at the wide receiver position again here. Still got Darius Slayton, Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, Hardman, Crowder, Rager, Jefferson. So couple of the rookies available, and then there's still a few other wide receivers that I like a bit later too. So probably wait on that position again here. Still feel really solid with the top four that I have. So we're just going to pound that wide receiver, that running back position a little bit more here. Top guy on the board is Philip Lindsay, who I think this is probably a good spot for him. While we do believe Melvin's going to get all the work, I do believe Lindsay's going to be involved, right? You're not going to be thrilled to play him unless you're pretty much in this situation where, hey, you can just put him out there and he can get you, maybe 5 points, 10 points. You're thrilled because the rest of your team is covering for the running backs, being a little lackadaisical. So we're going to lock in Philip Lindsay here and keep it moving. After him, Darius Slayton, Josh Allen, Hunter Henry, Carson Wentz, and Darrell Henderson.
Man, Wentz would have been nice.
Yeah. See, the one team ahead of us went back-to-back quarterbacks, Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers. The only guy who has two, I believe.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's a dumb move. I mean, it makes sense if you're taking a risk on someone.
Yeah.
But whatever. Like Tom Brady. Tom Brady might be, I would never do it, but I can make sense of that because Tom Brady hasn't been fantasy relevant in a while. So if you draft him and he's not, you have a guy. But
yeah, Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I don't know.
Very good pairing.
Yeah, so wide receivers that quarterbacks, that we have on the board. We have Matt Stafford, we have Cam Newton, we have Daniel Jones, Big Ben, Baker Mayfield. At the running back position, Latavius Murray, Kerryon Johnson, Chase Edmonds, Zach Moss, Antonio Gibson. At wide receiver, Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, Mecole Hardman, Jamison Crowder, Christian Kirk. At tight end, Jared Cook, Noah Fant, Austin Hooper, TJ Hawkinson, and Mike Gesicki. So an interesting spot to be in. Again, we're not really going to look at the running back position. There are some wide receivers that I like. A nice safe guy like Crowder would be nice. A guy like Christian Kirk that has some upside to him and some floor to him. Interesting. An upside shot in Jalen Reagor. Also interesting. Got some quarterbacks that I would like. I mean, I love Stafford. I haven't really decided what I'm going to do with him now with this COVID stuff. But Cam Newton, solid. Daniel Jones, not really on my list. Big Ben's interesting. Of course, we've talked up Jared Goff and waiting for him for a while. Ryan Tannehill's down there as well. So plenty of options there. At tight end, we're probably going to wait. We all know the play there. We can get like a Gesicki, a Jonnu, or Goddard, Jarwin, someone like that a little bit later. So we'll go ahead. I'll take another shot at the wide receiver position. And I think for me, it's going to be Christian Kirk. And he's not really the greatest floor play like a Crowder does, but he's got higher upside than Crowder does. I like the offense. I think they take a step forward this year. So I think he's a solid flex option. Again, I don't need him. So if it doesn't work out, then we should be fine. But he was on my team last year. He was usable at times last year. So I can't see him any worse than that. You got to think Kyler's going to take a step forward. And as him and Hopkins get used to each other, he could be relying on Kirk. So we're going to lock in Mr. Christian Kirk there. We've got Latavius Murray and Kerryon Johnson off the board. So now I probably take a big upside shot here, and I'm going to go ahead and grab Jalen Reagor. I feel pretty comfortable with my wide receivers. We got Courtland Sutton, Stefon Diggs, Tyler Boyd, and Christian Kirk. Comfortable with all those guys. I want some high upside to me, and Reagor could easily become the number one option for Carson Wentz in that offense, given that the wide receiver core is just barren. So we'll go ahead and lock him in there as a nice upside shot. If he doesn't work out, he doesn't work out. I'll be okay. Zach Moss, Chase Edmonds, Matt Stafford, Cam Newton, and Jared Cook go off the board.
All right. So coming back to me here, looking back at the wide receiver position. Still, most of the guys that we talked about, I think only the two you took and Darius Slayton went. So not really looking there yet. Still got 5 picks left here. So maybe you grab one more on the next couple. But we're going to look back to the running back position. And two guys who are still on the board that I, for different reasons, interest me. First one is Antonio Gibson. We still have no clue what's going to happen with that backfield. I think Steve and I are both hoping it's Geis, but with his injury history, we have no clue. I do think Antonio Gibson's going to be used, especially Kelvin Harmon going down. They may have to get creative in the receiving core, so maybe he works, in various positions. And then another option here is Tony Pollard, right? This is the position you go 0 RB, you want to go those upside running backs that could really boom, and your team, just is unstoppable if you can get that guy that's going to, get Zeke's workload and the team around him without Zeke being there. That's a guy in Tony Pollard. So as much as I do like Antonio Gibson, I think I want to go with another upside shot here in Tony Pollard. And, awesome if Gibson falls down to me. I don't imagine either of them would get back. So I think we have to go with Tony Pollard here. So Tony Pollard off the board. Henry Ruggs goes. Jameson Crowder, Mecole Hardman, Antonio Gibson, Jerry Jeudy, Boston Scott, Damian Harris, and Justin Jefferson. All right, so once again, looking at that running back position, we have Duke Johnson, Justin Jackson, A.J. Dillon, Nyheim Hines, Anthony McFarland, Carlos Hyde. Now, this is a position where I almost wish it didn't already have Marlon Mack on the team, because Nyheim Hines seems like he'd be a pretty solid play there as well. We'll look at the wide receiver position to see if there's anybody. Nothing that interests me too much. There's still a few guys that probably can get in the next round or two. So we'll look to the running back position again. And a guy that's, I think, another guy that should be used. We don't know how much, especially with the changes in the offense here, is Duke Johnson. I think he, is, kind of go back and forth between guys that should be used and guys that should, could get the entire work. As I have been the last couple of rounds. Duke seems like another guy that's just kind of safer option. That worst case scenario, you plug him in, you hope for 3 or 4 catches, 20, 30 yards, and then, watch the rest of your team go off the 0 B strategy here. So we're going to go Duke Johnson, another running back. And after him, Deshaun Jackson, Sammy Watkins, Sterling Shepard, Baker Mayfield, Noah Fant.
Okay, so we'll run down every position here. My strategy is probably going to be going quarterback and tight end to finish off those positions, but we'll run everyone down, make sure there's no good values that have dropped. So we got Daniel Jones, Big Ben, Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, Jimmy G, Ryan Tannehill. At running back, Justin Jackson, A.J. Dillon, Nyheim Hines, Anthony McFarland, Carlos Hyde, Shady McCoy, Chris Thompson, John J. Washington. At wide receiver, Anthony Miller, Brandon Ayuk, N'Keal Harry, John Brown, Preston Williams, Michael Pittman, Golden Tate. And at tight end, Austin Hooper, TJ Hawkinson, Mike Gesicki, Jack Doyle, Jonnu Smith. So, we do have plenty of good wide receivers that I like here. We got Anthony Miller. Ayuk's interesting. N'Keal Harry is now interesting with Cam there. Preston Williams, we'll talk about him all the time. Golden Tate's an interesting play. Alan Lazard's pretty interesting. So, a lot of good wide receivers here. But I do want to go ahead and lock in a quarterback here first. It's between quarterback and tight end. There are a bunch of tight ends that I like, and I'm sure Jonnu's going to get back to me. So I am more comfortable waiting the turn there. But at quarterback, again, I had mentioned Daniel Jones. He's interesting. He's got a lot of upside. We saw a lot of fancy relevance out of him last year. I just don't really trust him. I think his floor is pretty low. So he falls in the category of I'm going to need to see it before I can trust him. Big Ben is interesting. We all know the high upside that Big Ben has, but he's older, coming off an injury. So, if it was later, like if I could wait another round or so and get Big Ben, I would. But at this ADP with Goff still on the board, it ain't going to happen. Joe Burrow is interesting, but I don't like relying on rookies. And then we come to Jared Goff. And, I've drafted Jared Goff plenty this year, as you have. He's just a great value here. He's got a lot of upside. We've all seen it before. And a lot of people remember the down year last year, but towards the back half of the year when they got things figured out, I forget what he was, but he was like QB 10 or something. So he was a valuable guy. And if I get quarterback 10 or better, then I'm happy considering how late I'm getting him. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to lock in Jared Goff there. Daniel Jones and Brandon Ayuk go off the board. So we will turn to the tight end position. Plenty of options here. I mean, Austin Hooper this late is interesting. I don't love him this year, but this late, that's fine. Hawkinson, I am not really on. He falls into the category of I'm going to need to see it. I'm also noticing that he's on the COVID list too, Will.
Who
I'm
is that?
wondering.
Austin Hooper?
No,
Oh,
Hawkinson.
Hawkinson. So maybe it's, yeah,
Now I'm
everyone they
gonna
worked out
see.
with.
Yeah, let's see. Show drafted players. Is Marvin Jones? No, it doesn't look like they're showing Marvin Jones on the COVID list. So it's not the whole offense. It's just Galladay, Stafford, and Hawkinson.
Yeah. Maybe they like met up, in the off season and did something because it looks like Swift and Carrion are okay as well.
yeah, maybe. But so that's a no from Hawkinson. Gesicki's interesting. I do worry that his stuff last year, his rise last year was more because of the injuries to Preston Williams, and I'm not sure what his usage is going to be. I believe his OCS bad history with the tight end position. So we'll see. Jack Doyle's kind of interesting. It's a good floor play, but not enough upside for me. Where Jonnu, I do believe in. I think he could take another step forward this year and cement himself as a, not top tier. We're not talking Kittle or Kelsey or anything, but he could jump up into that Evan Ingram, Hayden Hurst, Higbee, Gronk kind of mid tier. And getting him this late, I think that's a valuable thing to have. So we're going to go ahead and lock him in. We have Big Ben, Justin Jackson, AJ Dillon, Austin Hooper, and N'Keal Harry go off. You're on the clock.
All right. So take a gander at the wide receiver position once again. Currently only have 4, but they were 4 of the first 5 picks there. So probably not playing or not playing any of them and have the ability to kind of interchange them, given bye weeks as well. But you definitely want to probably come away with 5, maybe 6. So we'll see who's still on the board at that position. We have Anthony Miller, John Brown, Preston Williams, Michael Pittman, Golden Tate, Alan Lazard, Mike Williams, Curtis Samuel. So still a few interesting options there. At the running back position, you got Aim Hines, Anthony McFarland, Carlos Hyde, LaShawn McCoy, Chris Thompson, DeAndre Washington. So not as much there. There's a couple guys there and even further down that are interesting maybe later in the draft. So I think maybe I'll strike here at the wide receiver position. A couple guys that interest me here are Golden Tate and Alan Lazard. Golden Tate, I think, has a nice safe floor. He's not going to be your boom guy on that team. But I do think he has, that 4 to 5 catch, maybe gets 40, 50 yards. Not going to be overly big play, but I do think he gets volume. And Alan Lazard, he has a lot of upside being the wide receiver too. There, I know it's been a while since we've seen Aaron Rodgers really, be able to create 2 weapons that worked in the receiving game, but we'll see. And then Mike Williams is also interesting as well. Given that there's a couple of guys, maybe with a little more boom there, I'm going to go with the Golden Tate here, and then maybe look at another wide receiver a little later. So we'll Golden Tate, see what happens the rest of this turn here. So after Golden Tate, Mike Gesicki, Naeem Hines, Anthony Miller, Joe Burrow, John Brown, Preston Williams, TJ Hawkinson, and LaShawn McCoy. All right, so looking at Alan Lazard and Mike Williams, both still on the board there. Not super thrilled with a lot of the running backs left. There's a couple of later round guys I could take a shot on, so probably do that in the last round. So we'll look to the wide receiver position again here, and for me, it's going to be either Alan Lazard or Williams. I like the long-term upside of Mike Williams, but with the rookie quarterback, with tight end, and another wide receiver probably ahead of him in the pecking order, likely even the running back there and Austin Eckler. I think it's going to be Alan Lazard for me here to get a 6th wide receiver. Feel pretty good about the receiving core, getting a little bit of depth here late in the draft. So then it's really just trying to work out who fills those 2 running back positions. We'll go Lazard. After him, Chris Thompson, McFarland, Michael Pittman, Carlos Hyde, and Mike Williams.
Awesome. So since we've plugged our quarterback and tight end hole, we will just be looking at the running back and wide receiver positions here. With my last 2 picks, probably go ahead and split and grab one of each. And I had mentioned back in round 8 when I grabbed Burita that I wouldn't be looking at running backs for a while. I will go ahead and take one more shot. We got DeAndre Washington, AP, Jerick McKinnon, Darrington Evans, Raquel Armstead. So it's pretty barren. There are 2 people that jump out. I mean, we all know that I like Jerick McKinnon. I think you're on him as well. It's a great late round shot to see if he grabs the pass catching role. But we've done that a lot, so I will go ahead and I will grab somebody a little bit different, and I'm going to go ahead and grab Darrell Williams. Given the recent news with Damian Williams sitting out, everyone's so sure that it's going to be CEH and he's going to get the lion's share of the work and it's his role entirety. And again, we mentioned it 1,000 times. It's a weird offseason. Darrell Williams was fantasy relevant in that offense, and that's who they turned to when Damian Williams and Shady went down last year. So if things come out and they start as a 50-50 split, it wouldn't surprise me, and that could give me a couple weeks of value. Not that I'll really need it with this team, but again, a lot of weird stuff going on with COVID. Maybe I will end up needing it. It's not a bad thing to have, and this late, if I don't see it week 1, we could just cut him and move along. So going to lock in Darrell Williams there. Jack Doyle and DeAndre Washington go off the board at the 13-14 turn. So I'm back on the clock looking at wide receivers. We got Curtis Samuel, D.D. Westbrook, Robbie Anderson, Alshon Jeffrey, Larry Fitz, Rashad Perryman. The list goes on. I don't like anyone I just named off, really. Curtis Samuel and Robbie Anderson are interesting shots to take, but I'm just not super interested. For me, it comes down to Paris Campbell or Hunter Renfrow. I've mentioned both of them. I don't think I've had the opportunity to take Renfrow, but definitely mentioned both of them as being kind of forgotten guys. Paris Campbell, I really loved Paris Campbell last year. He had an injury-riddled season, meh kind of quarterback play. Now he's getting Phillip Rivers. T.Y. Hilton's got a hamstring injury, so maybe they're going to rely on him a little bit more. So he seems like a forgotten man, could have a lot of value. And Hunter Renfrow as well, kind of in that PPR mold that Beasley was in. And he was valuable in that role. I know Carr was talking him up about like 10 touchdowns or something this year. I don't think that's really in the cards for him. But he's an interesting kind of safer play. That's not really how I play. So I'm going to go ahead and grab Campbell here. And we'll see what gets to you for your last pick. We had Alshon go off the board. Dallas Goedert, nice late shot. Robbie Anderson, AP, Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right. Scrolling up and down this running back group here just to see where's that last gem on the board. There's not too many left. It's interesting that both of the other Atlanta running backs, both Brian Hill, Ito Smith, I saw there on the board. Not really thrilled about the situation overall, but it's interesting to see both of them available. One name that stuck out because it's been sticking out for about 20 years now is Frank Gore still there. It's an interesting one. Don't think that I could pull a trigger on him, but he's interesting. Another one that I feel like was drafted much higher and was actually drafted. I don't think was probably drafted most years, maybe even last year's. Gio Bernard, Steve. He was a draftable player last year, was he not?
I think he was around this area where he was going in like the last 2 rounds. In some drafts he wouldn't go. But yeah, he's definitely a lot further down the list this year.
Yeah, so it's interesting. You got him, you got Frank Gore that are decent shots. There's really not too much else. The one that sticks out to me that I was hoping to find me another boom guy like a Pollard or Madison to pair with them. But, looking for another guy that probably is going to be able to play. And I'm going to go with a Malcolm Brown, right? Start the year, we don't really know who the guy's going to be there. Likely by the end of the year, it's going to be Cam Akers, but we don't know about Darrell Henderson. And, Malcolm Brown's the only one that's really been in the system for multiple years. So maybe he gets the nod early. So I can roll with, him and Lindsey or him and Mack to start the year. And then, hope on a Madison and or Pollard to kind of break into, really be a game changer.
So going a little bit further down the list, do you have any interest in pulling off something like I did and taking a shot on Darwin Thompson? Last year's
saw that
star?
Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing. You just don't know which of them. I mean, I saw you took Darrell and DeAndre Washington also went as well. I figured if he was going to break in, it would have been last year. Like he couldn't even get past the guys that were there last year. I don't know how.
He had a perfect opportunity.
Yeah.
He had all the injuries in front of him, and they didn't turn to him.
Someone traded up with us in the rookie draft to take him as well. So it's interesting. I don't think I can pull the trigger on a guy like him. I'm just going to go with another guy to at least start the year, with carries, and that's a guy in Malcolm Brown. So we'll lock in Malcolm Brown, have a couple running backs that I don't mind plugging in to start the year. And then, looking for, that as the position to add in the free agency, as well as having Alexander Madison and Tony Pollard as kind of my ace in the hole. Either of them, can take over the workload. So Malcolm Brown to end the draft there. After him, Jerick McKinnon, Ryan Tannehill, Curtis Samuel, and Darrington Evans.
There we go. So there's your zero RB strategy, Will, that you've been looking forward to since yesterday. You want to run down your team and give us your thoughts?
Yeah. So we'll run through here. We've got at the quarterback position, Deshaun Watson. The running back position, Marlon Mack, Alexander Madison, Philip Lindsay, Tony Pollard, Duke Johnson, and Malcolm Brown. At the wide receiver position, Michael Thomas, Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin, Golden Tate, and Alan Lazard. And then at the tight end position, George Kittle. Overall, I think this is probably, one of the better situations you can be in for a zero RB. You don't typically get, two of the, I'd say, top three wide receivers really to fall to you. 5 and I guess that would be 18, something along those lines for those first two picks, let alone having Kittle fall as well. So the start of the draft really, makes it easier to bear some of these running backs that you're going to have. Probably could have went with other players, but I think the level of wide receiver of A.J. Brown and Terry McLaurin makes sense in the flex positions there. The only thing maybe would have done differently is go with a little sturdier of a running back instead of Deshaun Watson and maybe a Ronald Jones or like a better upside guy in a Geis or a Dobbins. But other than that, I think the team is really good. I'll be pretty much locked and loaded for every position aside from the two running backs. Probably start the year off with Marlon Mack, Philip Lindsay, Malcolm Brown, two of those three in there. And then, whichever one's going to, ends up getting carries and or targets, I'll play. But really banking on, really filling up the points from the wide receiver, flex, tight end, and quarterback positions. And hopefully they can make up for, the lack of points you're likely going to get from a running back like this. But yeah, this is what I'd be hoping for in a zero RB strategy. What about you, Steve?
So before we run down my team, let's play the game, Will. Because like you said, you had some people fall to you, right? Tyreek fell.
Yeah.
George Kittle's a little bit of fall. I mean, it's not unreasonable. But let's just assume they don't make it to you. And your second pick is like Mike Evans. Your third pick, say Allen Robinson. And maybe with your fourth, you strike a tight end and go Mark Andrews. So Michael Thomas, Mike Evans, Allen Robinson, Mark Andrews, and then the rest of your team. Would you feel happy with that?
No, probably not. I mean, you need to get a little lucky with something like this, probably, right? I think, I think you probably can maybe get a Godwin there, or I guess it would have to be a Robinson, maybe even reach for like a DJ Moore there, but probably wouldn't like the team nearly as much as I do here, and I think that's why. The only time I would actually, pull off that strategy is if it really falls to me. Because if you do go into it looking to do it and you don't get the values falling to you where they should, it really does screw you. So you want to be aware of the strategy. You want to know what it is, know the tendencies you take, but not necessarily go into it with that in mind. But just, hey, if the board falls to you, if you do, you want to trust your board, but you know that you have some other strategies that you can utilize.
Nice plug.
Thanks.
To run down my team at quarterback, we got Jared Goff. At the running back position, we got Kenyon Drake, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, Melvin Gordon, Matt Breida, and Darrell Williams. At wide receiver, Cortland Sutton, Stephen Diggs, Tyler Boyd, Christian Kirk, Jalen Rieger, and Paris Campbell. Finally, at tight end, we got Jonnu Smith. I like it. It's pretty solid. I mean, obviously, the running back group is beastly. But I do kind of run into that position that I had mentioned around round 4. Like, I would probably rather swap out Melvin Gordon, grab an OBJ, grab an Amari Cooper, maybe DJ Moore falls in reality, and have that as my first wide receiver slot. And then I could go Cortland Sutton. And then instead of Stephen Diggs, I go Kareem Hunt, something like that. That would be more preferable to me. But other than that, I can't think of anything wrong. I mean, the wide receiver core is good. It's definitely good enough to win. It's not amazing, but with the running backs there, as long as it's not injury riddled, it's definitely good enough to win. So overall, I like it. We've done plenty of running back heavy approaches, so I'm not really surprised that I like it. But, looking back on yours, I like yours as well. Again, you had people fall to you, but as I mentioned yesterday, this is kind of the sweet spot, the middle of the draft, where you could pull off that 0 RB, and it really works out well.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at it too, I think, as we can tell, the heavy RB versus 0 RB, even when you go heavy RB, your team still looks pretty well balanced. Sutton, Diggs, Tyler Boyd, you still have solid receivers, not kind of the really reaching running backs that I had to go with 0 RB. So you just got to note that coming out of the draft with the 0 RB team, you're probably not going to like that position. Whereas, you went heavy RB, but you still were able to come out, receiving core that you're okay with. So definitely just take note that it is going to be tough to swallow the pill of running backs that you typically end up with that 0 RB strategy.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, that's going to wrap up the mock for today. Again, if you're listening on YouTube, hit that like button. If you're listening to the podcast, give us a 5-star rating. We'd really appreciate it. You can follow us on Twitter at Trust Your Board. Give us an @ with all your poll questions and whatnot. We always respond and retweet everything. Until Monday, friends, trust your board.